everybody, this is Gerald with Welding Classroom. I was going to go over another short part of the AWS Book of Specifications. We're going to just go over Clause 1, the general requirements. As with any code book specification, it's a good idea to kind of get familiar with the scope, general requirements. Almost all codes will have something up in the front that kind of give you some general information about it. I suggest you take a look at it. Okay, so the general requirements that are here in Clause 1 of the Book of Specifications tells what it applies to. AWS CWI exam. It's not to be used for any purpose. We are going to be using it for another purpose. We're going to be using it as a training aid. The CWI practical exam tells it relies on the use of molded plastic replicas. Talks about that a little bit. Paragraph 112, specification includes representative requirements for structural steel, pipeline, and pressure piping. So this is a situation where this, per se, code book covers three separate applications. Now in real life, of course, structural steel is going to be AWS D1.1. The pipeline stuff, besides some other specifications, is typically thought of as API 1104. And pressure piping, B31 codes, B31.1, B31.3 are the most common, but there's quite a few others. So this is intended for use for the weld inspector examination and not for anything in real life. So 113, unless otherwise noted, requirements contained in the book specification 1, 5, and 6 are to be considered general requirements applicable to all three applications. So the information that's in Clause 1, Clause 5, and Clause 6 applies to Clause 2, Clause 3, and Clause 4. Clause 5, for instance, is welding procedure qualification. Clause 6 is welder performance qualification. So understand that for the three application clauses, structural, pipeline, and pressure, there's going to be requirements for welder qualification and procedure qualification, and you know where you go, Clause 5 and Clause 6. Paragraph 114, normative annexes are provided for requirements. Informative annexes are provided for information. I suggest you go back and look at what the annexes are and be familiar with them. Of course, if you have any questions about them, feel free to send me a message. 115, calculations, formula definitions based on data published in the annexes to this specification. Since the book specification applies to three applications, terms and definitions are not limited to AWS A 3.0, standard welding terms and definitions. So if you go back and look in Clause 3, for instance, for the pipeline, you'll notice that there's terminology used in there that is not an AWS standard welding term and definition. Another very important part to think about is the term shall, should, and may. Make sure you understand what those mean. It's defined right here in the book. And keep an eye out for them. As a matter of fact, real quick, we'll just do a search for the word shall, since we got the PDF version open. Hit Control F. Type in the word shall. Just kind of let us see a context of how it's used. That's the beginning of the general requirements we already read. Keep on going. How the tolerances apply. Still in Clause 1. Mill-induced discontinuities. Talks about the requirements shall be as followed. Here they shall be completely removed. Here they shall be referred to the engineer for disposition. Those are requirements, not optional. See what else we got. You can see the term shall shows up quite a bit. We'll just keep on scrolling through. It looks like there's 185 occurrences of the word shall. So let's go ahead and look for may. Only 44 occurrences of the word may. And then let's look for the word should. 18. Okay. So be aware of those and what they mean, what context they're used in, okay? You don't have to memorize all of it. Just be familiar with it. Jump through it and read it and see what it means to you. So down here, paragraph 1.2 or clause 1.2, however you want to look at it, talks about visual inspection of cracks and welds, other discontinuities, aided by a flashlight, magnifier, and mirror. Obviously on the CWI exam, you're going to have whatever tools they give you. Weld sizes, lengths, and locations shall conform with the requirements of this specification. Okay, nothing confusing, nothing trick there. Joint preparations, assembly, and welding techniques shall be verified. Obviously, you're not going to be verifying any real welding techniques. You won't be observing any fit up per se, but you may be welding or maybe inspecting some welded end preparations. Make sure you understand how to use, measure an angle on the end of a bevel. Make sure you understand where 0 is at with no bevel and where 30 is with a bevel. And of course, suitable measuring tools and gauges shall be used where necessary. Again, you're going to be provided the tools that you need. So the next area in the first clause are the dimensional tolerances. Unless otherwise specified, the following standard dimensional tolerances shall apply when using this specification. They do not apply to the dimensions in test specimens, Annex 4, or to discontinuity acceptance limits. 131. Decimal tolerances are determined by the number of decimal places used in the dimension as follows. So if we've got 1 decimal place, the tolerance is plus or minus 0.1. 2 decimal places, plus or minus 0.01. And for 3 decimal places, plus or minus 0.005. That's not too bad. That's not too difficult. Fractional tolerances can sometimes cause some folks some problems. You got to understand the difference between whole numbers and mixed numbers, fractional numbers. This tolerance right here, this very first one, applies to whole numbers that are greater than 6 inches. So this tolerance of plus or minus 1/8 would only apply to a measurement that was specified at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 2020, doesn't matter. It's got to be a whole number though. It has no fractional part on the end of it. Whole numbers from 1 to 6 inches inclusive, so that's going to include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's plus or minus 1/16. Okay, so those first two only apply to whole numbers. They do not apply to mixed numbers. 6 1/4, 6 1/16, 5 and 20, and 13 32. The tolerances that are up there for that do not apply because those numbers that I just said are not whole numbers. Okay. So a fractional number also includes a mixed number, which is a whole number including a fraction. So if we had a dimension specified at 3 1/16, the tolerance is plus or minus 1/32. If it was 7 1/16, it's still plus or minus 1/32. If it's 2,221 inches and 1/16, it's plus or minus 1/32 because it ends in 1/16. Same thing about 1/32. It can be 3 1/32, it's plus or minus a 64th. It can be 8 1/32, it's plus or minus 1/64th. Okay. So if the fractional number is specified at something less than a 32nd, which is only going to be a 64th or 128th, it's plus or minus 1/128th. So hopefully you understand that, and that kind of gives you a little bit of a feel for what's in the in the general section of the code book or the book of specifications. I'll go back and forth calling it code book and specification and different names. You'll just have to understand where we're at. If you got any questions, feel free to call me or text me. Texting is better, 423-914-1481. If you've got some specific questions about what we talked about here or what I talked about, and you need some guidance to get it in your head a little bit better. Have a good day. Bye.